Welcome wherever you are to ALFsplaining, where myself, Ben Baker,
and me, John Matthews,
usually talk about an episode of the hit American sitcom ALF from our genuinely appreciative and almost amusing British perspective. But today we actually have a guest, and not only that, it's someone who was actually on screen in the programme, and not even like, you know, Sassy Plumber Number Three or anything, like an actual ongoing character who was in loads of episodes, and one that's actually become a real favourite of ours. You might know him as Jake Ochmonek, the streetwise nephew of Alf's neighbours, the Ochmoneks. You might know him by stage name Josh Blake. Or you might know him as Josh Buxbaum, because, well, that's his actual name. But whatever you know him, you're going to know him even more when we speak to Josh. Hello, Josh.
Hooray!
Hey guys, how are you?
We're good. All pleasure. All
We're
pleasure.
incredibly excited to have an absolute ALF star on the pod. Finally.
Oh, please.
It's great times.
Again, we've had to explain in advance that when we say things like absolute ALF star, we do mean it genuinely.
No, yeah.
But we're not mad. We're just enthusiastic.
Look, I appreciate it, and I'm happy to talk to you guys. When you sent me the invite to chat, the enthusiasm bled through on the email, and anytime I see that sort of excitement, it's fun for me to be able to share with guys like you who really appreciate, the show, and it's fun to be the person who can provide this, this info, and so I appreciate you reaching out, and I'm happy to chat with you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit later on about what you've been up to since and all that. But
Sure.
I have written some proper questions, but when we're just checking out IMDb and stuff, Alexa very kindly offered an instant quickfire questionnaire. So I'm just going to fire these at you, and I'm just going to just check that the internet is correct, because you know what the internet can be like.
Yeah, there's some scary stuff out there. Okay, I'm ready. Bring it.
I mean, apparently, the most important question is, how old is Josh Blake?
Well, Josh Blake painfully is 51 years old.
Oh, I see. It says 50. It says 50 here.
There you go. See?
One
Already.
is wrong. One is wrong. I don't know which.
Yeah. Well, I prefer to go with what the internet says. So let's do that. I'm 50.
32 years of age. Where was Josh Blake born?
I was born in New York. Born and raised.
Where
does it say?
It says New York, USA. I had to add the full. It's the full.
My bad.
It's the full. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
It could be anywhere. It could be anywhere.
How tall is Josh Blake?
That varies. It varies day to day. But I'm clocking in at 5'9" right now. Yeah. Some might say 5'8.5", but I'm confident in 5'9" at this point.
Is that your final answer? Is that?
Yeah, 5'9". I'm going to stick with
sticking
5'9". Yes, sir.
It's correct. 5 feet
right,
9 inches,
it's right,
or
it's right.
1.75 meters. If
Wow. If you
might
think
come up.
in meters.
It might-
Yeah.
If someone points at you and say, "This bus full of nuns is going to explode if you do not know how tall in meters you are," now you know.
Now
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah,
Now we
that's
know.
true. Thanks for that.
What is Josh Blake known for?
Oh, I mean, I would guess it's ALF. I would guess that's the big one that people would remember me from.
There's 3 things listed, actually.
Oh,
Alf is
okay.
obviously one of them.
Jeez.
Posit a guess at what the other 2 might
I did a lot of theater as a kid, maybe some Broadway stuff that I did when I was younger. What else? I don't.
See, this is the internet. It's very base level.
Okay.
So,
Okay, Josh is known for ALF and for being a terrific human being and a lovely dinner guest. Maybe.
Is that right?
I
Yeah.
just, yep, yeah, no, that's
Got
correct.
it? Okay, good.
It says
Nice.
once a hero and going down.
Got it. That's interesting.
I assume going down's a film and not just. No, sorry, it's not that kind of podcast. Please.
No, it was a
Please.
story. It was a story about my career, actually. The last few years of my career, going down very quickly. Going down was a awful teen movie that I did towards the end of my career. Just painful, but fun. I had a blast. And then what was the other? Once a Hero. That was a TV series I did. A pilot that I did that turned into a series that was about a superhero come to life. It was actually a lot of fun, but I don't think it went very far.
How many awards has Josh Blake won?
I would guess 0.
It says 1 award, but it doesn't say
There you go.
Any more information?
I did get MVP for soccer in 7th grade, if I recall. Actually, it wasn't. It was most improved player. It was not most valuable. It was most improved. But then everyone else got awards as well. But I'd say that soccer award's the only thing I can think of offhand.
Well, that's more than we've ever got in soccer. So you're already one up on us.
Fair enough.
Fair
enough.
I mean, I got a bad knee injury from soccer, if that helps.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
I did have to have an operation on my knee and everything. But it's not about me. We're not talking about me.
No. But thanks for sharing. No. We're going to get to know each other if you want to. I'd love to hear all about your injuries.
Yeah, I'll go through it. I'll send you a diagram later
You
on.
don't want to hear about his injuries. Stop
Please.
talking about his injuries. You don't want to hear about them. You really don't.
No. You guys strike me as true athletes. I'm shocked.
There's no need for that.
That's why we're sat here, surrounded by ALF memorabilia.
Watch 600 ALF episodes. Do you at least stand up and sit down every once in a while just to get the blood going?
No.
Okay.
No, we're hardcore.
It seems a lot of work.
Is there alcohol involved during these sessions, or any sort of substances?
We drown our sorrows afterwards.
No, I mean, the idea came when we were in a pub. It was like, we should do that thing, that'd be funny. But generally, no.
Cool.
No.
I am a fan of your show. I've listened to some of the episodes and really...
Thank you.
To be honest, given the fact that I did this show so long ago, I actually learned stuff from your podcast because, like, for example, your interview with Paul Fusco, I've neither seen or talked to him since the show ended, and so it's really cool to hear his perspective and to hear his voice again, and it's a trip down memory lane. So I got a real kick out of listening to those interviews.
Did his memories tally with your memories? Did it sound accurate as to the way that the show went?
Absolutely. I think what's interesting is when I was a kid when I was acting, and so as a grown up, you see things totally different. You can get frustrated, you could be annoyed, but as a kid, especially a kid on that show, and I happened to be a fan of the show when I went on the show. To me, it was like a dream. I mean, there was nothing to complain about. It was a dream come true. I had a blast. So, I did hear him talking a little bit about, or you guys talking about, like there was some negative publicity about, it wasn't a great place to work or the work environment wasn't great. I remember nothing but having fun. And that's an honest answer. I remember Paul being the nicest, kindest, warmest, and equally what I remember the most is he was very sarcastic, both as a person and, Alf was extremely rude and sarcastic off camera, which as a New Yorker and just my vibe, my personality, I enjoyed that so much because it made it so fun, right? So here I am, a fan of the show, and now I'm sitting, the camera's not rolling, and Alf is talking shit to me, right? And we're sarcastic, there's a lot of sarcasm going back and forth, and I'm like, well, I'm not an alien, you know what I mean? I'm having a pretty good life here. And he's like, well, you don't know, and we'd go at it. And I just remember thinking how fun that, like, who gets to do that, right? So it was a blast. Yeah, it really. I really don't have any negative memories at all. Everyone was really kind to me, and I was really lucky, right? I mean, it changed my life, right? And so I'm glad they gave me that opportunity.
Because it's interesting that the sort of norm for American sitcoms, certainly 80s, to be like try and boost ratings with a overly cutesy, sassy kid, like out the Olsen twins and Raven Simone and Cosby, but Alf already had one of those, so they've sort of decided to go the other way with Jake. And did you have any sort of insight as to why they decided to bring a character like Jake in?
So, again, this was so many years ago, and so I didn't have a lot of insight into strategy or things like that. But my gut in retrospect was that they maybe needed somebody else to know about Alf, and that made it interesting, right? Because there was this Tanner group who knew about him. And what if someone else on the outside knew about him, right? And so I think that may have been it. And I do think that was the time of like the cheesy teen magazines and the heartthrobs and all that sort of stuff. And I think maybe, and again, this is me. I mean, maybe I'm giving myself too much credit, but they may have been an attempt to bring in like the cute guy, right? The guy who, like the teen heartthrob type character. I'm by no means characterizing myself as that, but I did during that time do all of those, cheesy magazines and photo shoots and all that kind of publicity. And in retrospect, why would I be doing that? Chances are that was tied to sort of the intention of bringing me. And I always thought the coolest thing was Jake was Josh plus Blake equals Jake. And I always thought that was pretty cool that the character basically, I believe was named after me, which I really, I was honored by.
Wow.
We've watched
Mind
so many
blown,
episodes,
right,
and
gentlemen?
neither of us have picked up on that.
Mind blown.
Never twigged. It never twigged. Never twigged.
Mind blown.
Oh no!
Look, yeah.
What have I done with my life?
It's okay, boys. It's okay. I mean, that's exciting. At least you haven't
But
run
it's
out of
awesome.
new
That is
information. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember meeting with the guys. I met with Paul and Tom Patchett, and I was just a kid, and I remember. I don't remember what I was doing at the time. I was doing theater or television work at the time, but I remember it wasn't a typical audition. It wasn't really an audition. It was sort of like I was brought in to do the role. Like I was used to auditioning and being treated like everyone else, but it was almost like, we like this kid. We've seen what he does. We love this character. Hey, Jake, welcome to the set kind of thing. And so I don't know. I count myself super lucky for them ever considering me and giving me that opportunity. And when I was listening to Paul and talking about people complaining and things, what I find when I watch a lot of these TV shows and stuff is, what is there to complain about? And what I mean by that is, it is such a gift to be able to, for them to let you be on their show, right? To get the exposure that you get, the money that you get, the fame that you get, the enjoyment that you get. I never understood people complaining. Like, I would have worked 24 hours a day to be a part of something so special, right? And then to look back and say, I don't know enough about who said what, but to ever look back and say, God, it was awful. God, the way we were treated. I mean, let's be honest. How bad could there are people that have, that work in coal mines every day, right? Like, is it really that hard to put on hair and makeup and go, shoot a show and say some funny lines? Like, I don't know. I've never understood people who complain, because there's 1 in a million people that get a chance to do that, right?
Yeah.
So shut up and do it and enjoy it,
I mean, I won't lie. When we saw the series was bringing a sassy teen neighbour, I did immediately think, oh no.
Right. Jump the shark.
Genuinely. No.
That's the expression. No, but it is. It's like when a show runs to at the end and they're like, okay. It's like when they bring in the new little boy. I think on certain sitcoms they used to do that, where all of a sudden there's like a cute little 5-year-old who, aw shucks, and everyone's like, oh, and you're like, okay, this is the last month. You know what I mean? This is the last season.
But not here in this case, because obviously you came in series 2, and you've ended up being one of our favourite characters, especially in series 3, which must have been weird, because it sort of started with a writer's strike and had to work around Anne Shadeen's real-life pregnancy. So it was quite a season.
Yeah, and to be honest, I remember none of that. So, yeah, I mean, you're talking about, 30 plus years, more than I was probably 15. So you're talking about 35 years ago. So I quite honestly don't remember Anne being pregnant. I remember she was lovely to work with. And I don't remember the writer's strike. I just remember being so excited to show up on the set of my favorite show ever. And, again, I remember very little, but to me, the biggest memory from that show was my first day on the set. I very distinctly remember not rehearsing for some reason. I don't know if I got rushed on or I was a last minute decision, but there wasn't much rehearsing with, Ralph and just, getting in there and working with the real Alf. And I remember being brought on set. I remember the lights. I remember I was in costume, and it was that first scene, I think, where I'm stealing a telescope from their house. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And I think that was my first episode. I think I sneak in and, and I remember this is me getting caught by Alf. And so I remember them bringing me on set, and I remember them saying, okay, this is where you're going to stand, and then you move here, and this is da-da-da. And I walk in, and there's Alf. There's this character that I've loved as a kid, and he's in front of me, but now I see the whole deal, right? Like, now I'm seeing how this all works. And I just remember being like, I just remember, of all the times I've ever stepped on a set and I was, worked with celebrities and things like this was probably the most intimidated and sort of frozen I've ever been, prior to them saying action. You know what I mean? I was like, oh man, I'm going to need a few minutes before you guys fire this up, because this is a lot, And I just remember thinking it was so cool. But definitely, like, just think about it. Think about whoever you love as a childhood, and then one day you're on the set and there's a camera on you and you're acting with that person. That's like mind blowing,
Did Alf feel real when you were there next to him?
Well, again, you see the illusion, right? So you see Paul and you see the whole operation, right? But I think as as an actor, and not to sound like as an actor, because
As an actor.
I've never been that guy ever. I think I was really good at sitcom stuff, and I got the timing, and I saw the math, and I still, to this day, if you were to show me a script, I kind of get where to hit. So, but I mean, you did have to focus on the upper part, and it was just like dealing with another actor, because it is extremely distracting, the rest of the stuff that's going on, right? I mean, there's a lot more to Alf than Alf. And so I think there was this like, hey, let's not worry about what's going on below. Let's look at the character and let's act with him, So it was a very different experience than just face to face with another actor, but probably more intimidating than, working with, say, a celebrity hero of yours or something,
There's no bigger celebrity than Alf. There isn't. I'm sorry.
Look, I would never question that.
It was interesting you mentioned Ralph there, because we've always been fascinated by the rehearsal Alf. Did he look much different to Alf?
I again, I have some vague memories, but I think he was a pretty rough looking version. I mean, I remember sort of seeing, I remember seeing the different versions of Alf, and I think there were one or two that were the beautiful, hair. It was like, it was like a dog groomer, right? They were brushing the hair and greasing them and getting them ready for prime time, right? There was like a whole thing going on, and I think there was one that just had, kind of like a crooked nose, and the one that was neglected. They're like, all right, let's use this bad boy for rehearsal. So I do remember there was the ugly one, and then then the star came out for the camera. But yeah.
And speaking of stars, we are genuinely we're obsessed with the Ochmoneks, and we often think there's a whole other sitcom sort of like just off screen, and especially like Trevor, apparently like pursuing a master's degree in art history and being a Korean War veteran and even having a coin collection. It's like we always felt like you, Alf, and Trevor should have been the series in some way, or a separate series could have been an interesting sort of. Genuinely, we think. Well, you all vibe really nicely.
We've always thought Trevor and Alf should have met. They would have become great pals had they ever met.
Yeah. I think that would have been a very good fit. Yeah, for sure. Those characters were a lot of fun. And Trevor in particular, he had a big personality, and he was just a blast. And he just, he brought that. I mean, that energy. He had that same energy off screen. That was who he was. And you could kind of tell that, that he wasn't acting. That's just him.
Sometimes he's just the next door neighbour character, and he'll appear for 30 seconds at the door, but he'll put everything into that, and when you think about the episode later on, he will have been the standout moment of that episode. It was just so brilliant.
Yeah. It's like Kramer on Seinfeld. Like he comes in, you get 10 seconds of him, and you're like, wow, that was a lot, He was not subtle in the way that he acted at all. He was just big, and it worked, So that was a really cool. That character was terrific, and I really liked the way they wrote my character. I had a lot of fun, and it was super easy for me because it was just kind of like an obnoxious New York kid, right? And so that was pretty much me. I think I beefed up the New York accent a little bit because I didn't have as strong an accent. But other than that, it wasn't very hard to play the character. I wasn't, I didn't have to channel anybody, Yeah,
because you sort of come in, you start as a bit of an antagonist. Certainly of Brian and stuff like that, but I think they dropped that very quickly when they realised you work really well in that dynamic. And because we'd been watching the season before you come in, and Alf has a lot of I'll meet this one person for a few minutes and then they go away. There's like Jodie and the psychologist. I mean, some of them do come back briefly, but none of them are. You were the first really was sort of an ongoing pal, new friend for Alf. Yeah.
It's like they kind of welcomed me into the family, right? Like I definitely became part of that inner circle, which was cool. And I don't remember when I started, like whether I knew I was going to, that's what's so interesting about television. You show up and you're like, is this 2 weeks or is this the next, 5 years of my life? I don't remember if when I started, I knew that I was going to be doing, many, many episodes, or if they said, hey, let's see how this goes. I honestly don't remember. But I do remember at one point saying, hey, I think I'm sticking around. This feels comfortable, and it feels like I'm too ingrained in this story, and it feels like it wouldn't make sense for me to disappear, right? Because you're looking for some sort of job security, right? There's the whole, like, you get that one script and you're like, oh, there was an axe that randomly flew through the air and hit me in the head. I guess I'm done with this show.
Were you being regularly schooled at this time?
It's a good question because my math and reading skills are definitely not up to par, and I'm suspiciously slow as an adult. No, yes, I was schooled, but it was all private tutor stuff for a lot of my life. Because I did, other than ALF, I worked on a bunch of TV shows and theater and things, and so. My wife and I always joke whenever I don't know something. I'm like, Leah, you have to recognize that I got 2 hours of school a day. But no. I mean, they are fairly strict about you getting I'm being sarcastic. You get your hours in but yeah, traditional school, I only probably did, a very small number of years of traditional school whenever I was not filming something. So yeah, the whole tutor scene was very familiar to me, and it was a very unusual way to be schooled, quite honestly.
So you start about 9-10 years old when you sort of went professional?
I think it was more like 6 or 7, believe it or not. Wow. I believe, and you could check me on this, maybe IMDb or something would answer, but I started in theater pretty young and started doing a lot of voiceover work as a singer as a kid. Here's a little trivia, but I don't know if it was big in the UK. There was a commercial called My Buddy. It was a doll. And the song went, my buddy, wherever I go, he goes. It's not ringing a bell with you. If you sang it to someone...
See, the thing is, like, straight away you've said that, I'm like, I know that.
Oh, okay.
I don't think it came out here, but that is something which is in my head.
Okay. So if you were to Google it, was really big. It was one of those, like, songs that is the 80s. For kids who grew up in the 80s, there's always funny videos about it. They did a joke about Trump and who on it with that song. Anyway, I sang that song as a kid, and that was like very pop culturally. So I kind of look back as like, I got to do a lot of fun stuff, in the 80s, very 80s-esque stuff. You know what I mean? 80s, 90s stuff. But I lost your question. Where were we? I just wandered.
When did I start? It's interesting to hear sort of your early days, I guess, kind of.
Yeah, so theater was, I was lucky enough to do Broadway theater as a kid. I was a singer primarily. And I did a play called The Human Comedy, which we did on Broadway for a very short period of time. And then I ended up doing more theater. I did a play called Rags, which was another Broadway show. So I was really like a Broadway singer kid. So I started very young. And then that transitioned into television. And then I got the opportunity to live out in LA for a while and do different TV stuff. It was a pretty amazing childhood. I mean, in retrospect, it was really special and really a lot of fun.
That's really good to hear, because again, people are only really normally looking for the negative stories these days, and there's obviously there was that Disney documentary about child stars, and it's nice to hear another option of it. Basically,
I think it comes. I had amazing parents, strict in terms of things like how you spend your money, where your money is kept. I think if your parents kind of have their act together and you're not a meal ticket for them, it's very different, right? So my dad had his own successful career. My mom basically took care of me on the set and whatever, but there was we don't need anything that Josh is producing here, right? So it was, let's put this aside, let's protect his money. Let's protect him. Let's make sure this is healthy. And I think the difference is my parents didn't want this for me. So when they want it for you, they push you and they push you and they put you out in the spotlight, and they're not worried about the consequences because there's an end game, right, for them.
Yeah.
It was just the opposite. My parents would have been very happy to pack me up and bring me back to New York and have a normal, life and a normal college career and whatnot. So I think that's the difference. They kept me in check. They kept a close eye on me. They kept a close eye on the people that were around me, because interestingly enough, because I do look back at like how it could have gone the wrong way, if you will.
Yeah.
And I do remember quite a few moments where I was around adults who in retrospect were quite creepy, right? Like, why are you spending time with me? Why are you interested in promoting a party and having me there. You know what I mean? Some like there's this whole odd underworld that starts to find its way into your life, whether it be they sent you a letter or they're in the not an Alf's case, but other shows, they're in the studio audience at the end, right? But this is a grown man, in his 40s. Why is he such a big fan of a 10-year-old, right? And why does he want to talk to you? And why did he make a little piece of art to give you, right? Like you remember some stuff that wasn't so kosher, but you remember your mom and dad being like, do me a favor, step away from my son. Do you know what I mean? Like you remember those, but if you didn't have those guardrails, it's a pretty dangerous place that you could be in, right? So I think that translates to the way I look at the world, and with my son, I'm always sort of like weary because I do remember there was some creepy stuff around there, right? And so you just have to be careful. But I think I was raised well enough to know. So it wasn't perfect. There were probably some situations that could have gone awry, but nothing, thank God nothing happened. And my parents were there to protect me, if that makes sense.
And thinking of parents, actually, your on-screen mum, Randy Heller, plays that must have been quite exciting. She's a kleptomaniac.
Oh yeah, that's right. I remember that. She was a thief. And I don't remember who played. And I'm sorry
Heller, who was Daniel's mum in The Karate Kid, and went on to do
no
all sorts
way
of stuff. Yeah. She was loads.
I do remember that. No. I do remember that.
Awesome.
That's so funny. Yeah. I do remember that. And it's funny because I was watching The Karate Kid with my son recently, but I forgot that she played my mom. She's like an icon. She's awesome.
You've got a bragging thing now. Next time you see The Karate Kid.
I got news for you. My son could care less about any of this stuff. It's like
is that right?
So uninteresting to him. It's painful. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I think most people that have been on television or done this. And by the way, we're not talking about recent credits. This is so many years ago, right? So it's just how is that particularly exciting, to a kid? I guess I don't know. I think even current people who are on television or in movies, I think their kids are kind of like, oh, dad, that's cool. You know what I mean? Because you're still just their dad, right?
Yeah.
But again, we're sort of like a thing which is, say, a sitcom that goes 4 seasons now. You could completely miss it. You could completely forget. Like that's one of the things that really fascinates about Alf is that it was from that period where it was pulling 20-25 million people on a Monday night. It was bringing huge audiences, and it had a cultural sort of miasma almost.
Yeah, and I remember that impacting my life pretty quickly. I thought that was another cool part of being a kid, on a TV show, is it wasn't after like even the first episode aired where all of a sudden you couldn't go somewhere without somebody coming up to you, or, I remember, and as a kid, this is exciting. This isn't, as an adult, maybe you're like, leave me alone. But as a kid, the attention is a blast. I mean, to be transparent, the attention is a blast, right? Because when you're that age, you're sort of, everybody's insecure and looking for attention. If you're like the man by accident, it's like, wow, I'll take it, right? And I remember being out to have, I was out on, I guess you would call it a date, but it was, I was 14, 15, I was having dinner or whatever with some girl that I had met. And, of course, parents drop you off, you're kind of supervised. But I remember we were eating at a Chinese restaurant and we were sitting in the window. And I remember seeing a girl, I don't remember how old she was, walk by and then walk by again and kind of look in the window and keep walking. And then she came walking and there was another girl and both of them walked by and they kind of looked at us and I was like, okay. And then I remember there were 3 of them. And then all of a sudden there were 15 girls standing in front of the window watching us eat, And I remember thinking, wow, this happened pretty fast, right? Like I just started this show, a few episodes ago. I was like, wow, I think things are going to change, Yeah. But it was all fun. I mean, I have no complaints. Yeah.
I mean, one of the things, obviously, as I said, we've just recently watched season 3, where we feel your role gets bumped up quite a bit, possibly because Anne Shadine's not on set as much.
Okay.
And that's definitely there's more shades to Jake at that point. It's interesting.
It's also possible, and again, I'd love to after listening to the interview with Paul, I've never been in contact with him, but I'd love to have a phone call with him, right? And just check in and be like, hey, thanks for all the whatever. And I have questions for him too, right? Because I wasn't, when you're an actor, you're not involved in the producer meetings and the behind the scenes and the strategy. You get your script each week, you show up and you do your job, right? But I do remember seeing that as validation. Like, okay, I guess I'm going to be here for a while. I guess they like me. And I do remember thinking, wow, I'm really starting to become a real character here, right? Like some of these scripts are really about me. There was one, it was called Cyrano de Bergerac, or there was some sort of, where Alf's in my ear. And the whole show was basically, my episode. And I remember thinking, oh, wow, this is a dream. This is really happening. So I think maybe we started with them trying to feel me out, because I don't remember, again, doing many auditions or any audition. Maybe it was sort of like, let's see how it goes with this kid. And then when they had confidence that I could do what they thought I could do, I think they started to elevate my role. And that's speculation, but it felt that way. It felt like they ramped me up when they felt like I could handle it,
It's certainly, we think that is what happened, because the Cyrano de Bergerac episode and the My Mother's a Kleptomaniac episode, Josh gets a lot of varied scenes to do. He covers a lot of acting bases in it, just from comedy to pathos to anger. And we've said in the podcast, so this is not sucking up to you, that you're really good.
No, thank you. I really do appreciate that, because it was so long ago. I don't remember whether I was good or bad. I remember I just really tried hard. But yeah, I'd love to go back and watch the Mother episode, because quite honestly, I don't remember that one nearly as well as some of the others.
They hold up. They do hold up.
Do they? Okay.
Yeah.
That would be fun to see.
We really particularly like the one where basically there's a scam. There's so Willie's car is being the mechanics are making things up, and Jake and Alf go undercover and stuff, and it's just a really nice dynamic. It's really fun.
They're just two pals having fun. Alf doesn't need to be an alien. It's just two friends having a lark.
Yeah, I remember, when we talk about Alf, things have changed, so we can now talk about him as a puppet, and there was a puppeteer and things like that in Paul Fusco. But at the time, it was really very strict in terms of how you spoke about Alf, right? Yeah. So there was definitely a decent amount of conversation, like whenever you had an interview and they're like, hey, tell me about, what's Alf like? You would never be like, well, it's interesting working with a puppet character. It was always like, Alf's amazing. He's pretty sarcastic though, and you got to keep your cat away from him. There was definitely like this this job you had to this role you had to play outside of the show. Very strictly enforcing the Alf is real, and quite honestly, it kept it fun, because it's pretty boring to talk about what's going on behind the scenes, but it is fun. But it's almost more fun to talk about it like you're on a show with an alien, and it's just crazy every morning showing up with that crazy alien, So it made it more fun than a typical interview, right? Because there was so many more places you could take it, right? I do remember that.
Genuinely forget, oh yeah, this is a puppet sometimes. It's interesting, definitely, as it progresses as a show, you do find it's a bit more natural. I mean, it's gaggy, obviously, it's like, Alf's a wisecrack and everything, but there are many times we have to go, oh yeah, it's puppet.
Yeah, and I think the more you acted with him, and Paul was always in character. He would, when even like I said, you'd end the scene and he'd make some kind of smart ass comment at the end, right? Or he'll be like, maybe you should learn your lines, kid, or whatever it was, right? If he made a mistake or whatever. But it was, again, all good-hearted. He was a very, very kind guy to work with. But so in a way, he helped you maintain that belief, because he was always in character, And so after that initial shock, quite honestly, of walking on the set and being like, oh my God, this is what I've been watching on TV, and now I see the whole secret, but this is Alf. I think it didn't take long after that for me to just feel like I was, playing with just another awesome actor on a set. You soon forgot about Paul down there, with his halo on and his whole setup. I think that's a tribute to how good he was, right, at sort of being that character at all times.
That's good to hear. That's really good to hear. And we were kind of sad that you leave, but did you leave to join the famous Teddy Z?
So it's funny, right before we got on this call, I Googled it because I wanted to be able to answer because I know this sounds crazy, guys, but I have to look some of this stuff up. This is a really long time ago in my life.
Fine.
Yeah, no, I'm just being transparent.
It'd be weird, I think, if you were like, "Oh yeah, well I did this and I did that." It's like,
fair enough. Okay, good, because I don't want to disappoint you. Okay, and I've led a lot of different lives too, right? So once my acting career ended, I ended up doing a lot of different things, and I'm really lucky to be able to say that because I love that I've gotten to try and experiment with so many different things in my life and different careers. But I don't. Yes, so I did look it up, and yes, the next thing I did was a TV series with John Cryer and a guy named Alex Rocco, who's like an incredible actor. He's passed away since, but it was called The Famous Teddy Z, and it was a really funny show on CBS. And
we
it was
got
just,
it here. It was quite a big show here actually on BBC Two.
Oh, it was.
Yeah. It was at 9 p.m. over here. Like it was got.
I don't think it
really
lasted.
Big push.
I think we did one season, and then that was it, or half a season. It was one of those. I had it. Look, I was a bit of a show killer. If you, in retrospect, there were a lot of, except for ALF, which did fine, but there were a lot of, the plays I did didn't last very long. I did quite a few series that crashed and burned, and The Famous Teddy Z was one of those where that's what's so interesting about acting. It literally is like on the flip of a coin, you could be a star for life, right? Take John Cryer, who was in The Famous Teddy Z, and now but he's done so many other series. Then he did 2.5 Men, which really launched his career. But you just get one of those to hit, and it's lights out. It's a whole new world. Or you could do a bunch of these pilots that get picked up, or they don't get picked up at all. Teddy Z was one of those. My honest answer is I don't remember if I left ALF intentionally go to Teddy Z. My gut says probably not. That for one reason or another they wrote me off the show or didn't bring me back. And I would ask you, because I don't remember, what did they ever explain where I went? No, I just disappeared.
No, part of the problem, part of why it's so sad is because there's the episode where there's a quake, and Al's getting over dramatic, and Jake comes in and he goes, "Oh, let me look at you because I might not see you ever again." And you go, "I'll come back when you're in less of a weird mood," and you leave, and that's it. You do actually go. That is it. I mean, I think the filming schedule was it was sort of in different order when it went out, but it's kind of like you just.
That's odd, right? Isn't it odd for a TV show to do that without writing somebody off? I wonder why that was done that way. So the honest answer is I don't know. Yeah. But my gut would say that when you're on a show like of that caliber, you likely don't leave. Although the argument would be I was a recurring role. I was not a regular on the show. So I don't think I was on every episode. And this is an opportunity to be a series regular on The Famous Teddy Z, playing John Cryer's brother, where I was a very regular character. And so maybe it was a strategic move. I honestly don't remember. But I do remember Famous Teddy Z was terrific. Yeah, that was a really fun show to work on. Really well written and really great people. I'm
surprised that didn't go for. I think when I was looking into it, I believe there was someone aired in America at the time, but we showed them all over here. It was quite a big deal. I think the big reason they said that one crashed was it was way too industry specific. It was very LA, New York. It's about an agent in Los Angeles who had, it was very insider baseball. A lot of the jokes were very, geared towards that audience. And I think maybe they thought middle America didn't appreciate it or care. I think that was the theory anyway. Yeah. So, well, I mean, as you sort of alluded to, it's like there must have been roles where you thought this is going to be something massive, or did you always just have that kind of it's just a job as a kid, as a younger actor?
I think when you're a kid, everything's just fun and exciting, and you don't put too much pressure on it. I think being an actor as an adult has to be so much harder. Yeah, because there's so much. I remember as I got older and started going on sets and working, I remember not enjoying it as much because I knew too much. I knew the stakes. I knew who was who in the audience. I knew, here's the network coming to watch us do a run through. I think that guy's the head of the network, right? You know too much, and it gets a lot less fun because the stakes are so much higher, right? As a kid, the only consequence was, I guess I'll go back home and go to regular school, And I knew my parents didn't care. They would have preferred me to have a more traditional upbringing. So I don't know that I ever was like, oh man, this is my big break. Everything to me was just fun and was kind of an opportunity, which is a much more fun way to live. I kind of envy that.
It's so thrilling and refreshing to hear that, isn't it?
Yeah.
That it wasn't a stress environment. It was just you having a laugh, which is what it should be.
Yeah, not for me. I mean, I do remember it was a lot longer shooting than majority of sitcoms. So a sitcom like I did an episode of a show called Full House, and
Okay.
I played John Stamos' cousin who comes to visit them. Their Greek cousin, and I get to marry DJ. It was a very funny episode, and it was a really popular show at the time.
Yeah.
It was like, I mean, it was you come, you do some rehearsing, then you come and do a little more rehearsing next day, and then they refine the script, and you do a little more rehearsing, then you put it on its feet, which means you block it, and then you shoot it with a studio audience. And I mean, it's a cake job. It really is. And we had a blast. And I remember thinking like, wow, this is easy, right? Now, when we shot Alf, again, not complaining, but the hours were longer. The technical aspects of working with the puppet situation really made it more complicated, and there were a lot more resets and a lot more time. I mean, still entirely a blast. But I definitely would say it was harder work than your traditional sitcom because I've done both. And the studio audience definitely adds an element that I always appreciated coming from the theater. I liked having an audience laughing, and it's tough when you nail a line and it's just quiet. It's a different experience as an actor, right? I always really enjoyed knowing I nailed it and hearing the audience laugh. So that was different too. We didn't have a studio audience for obvious reasons. They didn't want people to see what was going on.
We forget that sometimes. It's like, because obviously they've got a
soundtrack
audience. And we do forget that sometimes. It's like, oh, the audience enjoyed that one. Oh, there's not one, because it's so well put together in the end, the end product.
Yeah.
It must have been odd, I guess. You can't feed off it. You can't sort of balance your performance on what you're getting back, I suppose, can you?
Yeah, a part of me remembers getting laughs from like the director and the people, all of the production staff. I feel like maybe there was some laughter to help us. Like I do remember hearing something, but that's a vague memory. But yeah, there's definitely something about a big studio audience, and then they introduce all the actors, and you come out and everybody claps, and then you do the scene, and they're reacting, and there's like a lot of energy. That was a little different. And yeah, the hours I think were longer. But I never minded it. I just was so grateful to be there, and I think, I just sometimes I hear about on different series people complaining, and you're sort of like, you had nothing going on, and then these people gave you this huge opportunity, and so you had to work for it. That's what this is. That's what it's about, right? Like, just, I don't know. There's people tend to forget where they came from. That's just a general complaint I have in life. Is not to be grateful for what got you here and just to put the work in.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you sort of say, you did a bunch of other stuff, a lot of one episodes and sort of movie stuff, and I love that you popped up in you're in Psychonauts, aren't you?
Yeah.
As the game. Was there a reason why you suddenly jumped into voice acting?
So voiceover was always a thing. So back in the day, like jingles, which is like the song in the background of a commercial, were a much bigger thing, right? It was sort of like every product had some kind of cheesy song in the background, right? Every toy, every whatever. And so being, I guess, in the theater world as a singer, I tend to book a lot of those. So I was doing a lot of jingle work, singing songs, for kids' toys in the background, like that My Buddy doll or whatever other, random stuff. So that was a fun little side gig. And then as I got a little older, I started doing more voiceover stuff. And every once in a while I'd get to do a voice in a game, right? And honestly, I don't even remember what those games were, but a few different ones. And that was a lot of fun too. But yeah, once you get into acting, there's all these different avenues you can pursue, right? And so, the commercials was never something I really enjoyed. I despised commercials, and actually when I ended my was probably the end of my acting career, I'll never forget, I had a commercial agent who was like the good, you could always have different levels of agents, and I had the best commercial agent in the business. And I remember they called me, and this is, as you get older, like I said, when you're a kid, everything's fun. As you get older, you start to recognize, you start to see it in a very different light. And you start to look at, wait, I want to have a wife and a child one day, right? And like, is this, this is my life now? And I remember getting a call, and it was for a NyQuil commercial. And they told me, you have to be there at 10 o'clock and look like you just rolled out of bed. Please just put on your pajamas and, just look rough and, whatever. And I remember putting on my pajamas and starting to, and actually, no, I think I went to the audition. I showed up, and I remember looking around, and there's all these grown men in their pajamas. And I'm imagining them like kissing their kid goodbye to get on the bus, and they're getting in their car and driving there. And then we're just a bunch of schlubs sitting there in our pajamas waiting to get picked. And I remember getting up and walking out and calling the commercial agent and being like, am I allowed to curse on this? I guess I shouldn't. I am freaking.
No, please do. No, do.
I remember calling. I remember calling and just being, I am fucking done. And she goes, what? I go, listen. I'm not going to be 50 years old, putting on my pajamas, going and sitting in a fucking waiting room with a bunch of people to get picked for a NyQuil commercial. I was like, this isn't my fucking life, And I was like, thanks, but this is stupid. And I hung up. And it's kind of like, I remember, like, I'd heard from other people, you quit this agency? They always tell the story about how you called and said this was all bullshit and you're never going to dress in your pajamas for anybody again.
Wow.
But it really is a demeaning industry to an extent, to tell a grown up to dress a certain way and come in, with an hour's notice. I was like, I don't think I want this anymore, Now, also the reason I also felt that way was I wasn't working a lot. I mean, that's the honest answer, right? It wasn't just I hated commercial auditions. It just seemed like things weren't going the way that I wanted. And that was mainly because I took a break to go to college. I did go to George Washington University for 4 years. And when I came back, there was definitely like I'm sorry, who are you, right? Like you can't leave the game for that long. But I did have, I was lucky enough to do guest stars on all these fun, 80s, 90s shows like The Wonder Years and Home Improvement and Sabrina the Teenage Witch. And, you name them, I shouldn't say you name them, but there were a lot that I got a chance to do a guest star on. And it was just so fun to just show up and get to do a role on a show that you regularly watch on TV.
Yeah. I would say you should make your son sit down and watch all of these as education. It's
I made him watch one.
Just put him on and see if he notices that you suddenly appear.
I did that. I put it on the TV while we were just hanging out, and nothing. And I was like, that's Dad. And he goes, oh yeah, hey, that's cool. And then that was it. So.
Well, I mean, we've just heard from someone who's been showing ALF to his 16-year-old, which was quite a surprise. We thought, all right, that might be a bit, when you're a bit too cool for school, kind of that sort of thing, loving it, absolutely adored
Wow, really?
It. So, it still works.
I do remember the audience was pretty diverse. So like I said, at that restaurant and those girls all standing in front of the window, I also remember like my dentist thinking it was the coolest thing, or, a lawyer on the street, you know what I mean? Like the audience was pretty diverse. And there were a lot of like, professionals, grown men and women that really got a kick at, because there was a humor to it that was, it was intellectual in an odd way, I guess I would describe it, or it's funnier than than on the face of it, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
it's the pop culture stuff. Like we've said this a million times, wasn't very de rigueur back then. It was ALF doing the pop culture references and things was quite pioneering and inventive for the time. So it was like nothing else, and people enjoyed that. And the retro stuff as well, that he would do throwback references to TV shows of people's youth. So it's understandable.
Yeah, there was a lot of clever sarcasm, and like I said, Paul was incredibly sarcastic, and I remember really liking him for that, because as a kid, I didn't, the whole like, hey, how are you, buddy? Hey, welcome to the show. Listen, here's how things are going to go, pal. I wasn't that kind of kid. I was a grown-up basically at that time. I grew up very quickly. So someone who gave me a hard time, who was kind of sarcastic and just said, come on, guy, do your thing. I loved that, and that Paul was like a guy's guy in that way. It was a lot of fun to work.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Again, it's really good to have that kind of opinion, because we spoke to like some of the writers. Obviously, we spoke to Al Jean and Mike Reese, who a lot of the writers on ALF did go on to stuff like The Simpsons, and I think that voice is there, isn't it? That sarcasm, that healthy disrespect, I think definitely cuts through.
you could tell there were very smart people writing for that show. It's that simple. You know, if you understand the whole, you know, the world of writing and producing, you watch that show and you go, those guys in the writer's room are good, you know.
And did you ever think of getting into that side as sort of things progressed? Or were you always quite happy being an actor?
Yeah, I really liked being an actor. I was never drawn to the other side of the camera like a lot of people are. And I'm always very transparent when I say, I think one of the reasons I stopped acting was I recognized that I liked it for the wrong reasons. I think I really gravitated towards getting the attention aspect of it, you know, and a lot of people won't be honest about this, but I think I really enjoyed being the guy. And you know, I think the most successful actors are really passionate about the art of acting. And I don't know, I mean, as I've gotten older, I've started to appreciate it more. And I think if I were ever to go back to it, I would enjoy it for the right reasons because I don't care about the attention anymore. But as a kid, I think, and particularly as I got older, I realized, oh, maybe I'm doing this for the wrong reasons, you know, like maybe because I have friends who are actors now still, and some of them work a lot and some of them struggle. And you have to really love the art and the craft of acting to still be doing it and having to show up in your pajamas to a NyQuil commercial still, right? So I don't know that I had the passion for it in retrospect. I think the sitcom world I always appreciated because I did love the pace of it. I really would read a script like it was almost like math in a weird way. You'd see the beats and where to hit them, and it was fun to try them a bunch of different ways. I really enjoyed the pacing of it. I always an actor who I always respected and I always look at how he did was Jason Bateman, and the way he could hit a beat and the way he could read a line. He was an artist at sitcoms and now has gone on to be successful in everything. But I loved that part of it, the pacing and the you know, being able to, because I didn't really have like an acting coach who was like, here's how you should say this line. I kind of instinctively knew how to make it funny, you know, or at least I thought I did. And you guys corroborated that I was funny.
So. Absolutely, yeah. Again, you've gone on to be, as I said, when we thought, oh no, they're bringing in
I get it.
A sassy kind of
yeah.
I mean, I must admit, we say in the first episode you look like Pat Benatar, like a small version, because you've got the denim jacket on and stuff, and you've got the kind of sort of
textbook 80s cheese ball, like, yeah.
And we're like, oh, this is going to be torture, but you know, you get good people, you get good work. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you guys accepted me. I wouldn't want to ruin your experience. That would be very okay.
Yeah. So basically, you decided to get out of the industry. So what came next?
So real estate was a passion of mine, and you know, I'd made a little bit of money doing the ALF stuff and my acting stuff, and it wasn't a crazy amount back then. It wasn't like it is now, but it was enough to kind of get started in investing, and I started, you know, buying properties and redoing them and flipping them. You know, your standard sort of path of real estate flipping, and I became a real estate agent, and I was really into like urban living. So I sold a lot of lofts in downtown Los Angeles, these like really cool converted warehouses and stuff. And I actually ended up living in a warehouse in downtown LA, which was a really fun part of my life.
Wow.
And I ran my office out of it. So it was like, if a celebrity was looking for a cool place, they'd come to my warehouse and see my setup. And then, you know, we'd go drive around. It was really fun. I basically lived in downtown LA before it was downtown LA, and probably a neighborhood I never ever should have lived in. You know, dead end street. You know, in a like a manufacturing district. Nobody knew anybody lived there, but it was a blast. And then you know, I evolved to. So this was after college. I went to college first. I went to George Washington University. So yeah, I did the real estate stuff in LA for a long time, and then ended up starting a company with a friend. Which is this is going to be boring, guys. You want to talk about ALF, don't you? You really want to hear this stuff?
We're genuine. Okay. It's like it's use the person that we're
okay.
interested
Fair enough.
In,
but you tell
know?
me if you get
Absolutely.
bored. Okay.
No.
So I ended up doing starting a company called Web Purify, which was a content moderation company. And what we did is our job was really to keep people safe online. So whenever anybody submitted, say, an avatar in a game they were playing, you know, we were checking all of that content, or whether it was your profile picture or a dating site where you upload, you know, content to a dating site. We were scanning all of that content before it went live using artificial intelligence and a large human team. But I think a lot of that was born out of, or my real desire to do that was protecting kids, was the idea of keeping people safe online. Because like I said, as a kid, again, knock on wood, nothing terrible happened, but I did get a sense, I had those little hairs stand up on my neck every once in a while because I could sense the weirdness, right? And the people that were gravitating towards children, And so, one of our big, one of the main focuses of the company was to keep kids safe online and protect them from, harmful content and things. So I did that for 15 some odd years. We ended up selling that company. And then I've gone back into real estate, but more development. So I'm now in the student housing business where I build housing for college kids around universities. That's my primary focus now. So I'm really, my real estate background has been, the other part of me that I really love and enjoy. And so that's taken a front row seat now.
You seem happy. You seem like again, it's a genuine pleasure to hear someone who's gone, you know what, I did some stuff, it were great, and now I'm not doing that anymore, and I'm doing a different thing, and that's great as well. It is nice to hear.
Yeah, and I'm in a whole different life. I'm a dad now. I've got a beautiful wife, and it's a whole different world for me. I've moved into a whole different, lifestyle, and I'm loving it. But yeah, I appreciate you saying that, and yeah, I'm incredibly grateful for what I got to do back then. And one more point about this whole child actor thing, because the point I like to make, I think what happens a lot, and I did experience this, is the crash. So you are so enamored. You are like that story where I'm sitting in a restaurant and everybody wants to look at me, right? Or people are coming up to me on the street, or I'm getting thousands of letters from Germany, because ALF was very popular there. I've got bags of them,
Absolutely.
In my house, right? And all this stuff happening that doesn't normally happen to a kid, right? And then all of a sudden, you can't get a reservation at a like you're and this is going to sound dramatic, but you are nobody. You go back to being a normal person. And I think that crash is really tough for people. And to this day, sometimes I will be indignant about something, and in my head, I'm sort of like, don't they know who I am? And the truth is, I'm nobody, right? But I had a taste of really being somebody, and I think it's a tough transition for people, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think maybe that's where the crash happens, and that's where maybe people turn to drugs and alcohol or whatever it may be, because it really is a hard cutoff. One day, to this day, every once in a while, someone will come up to me and go, "Hey, can I ask you a question? Were you the guy on ALF?" And my wife gets a kick out of it, and I go, "Yeah, nice to meet you," or whatever. But it happens less and less and less and less, right? And I think that drop off of not being recognized anymore or not feeling special, if you don't feel good in yourself, and if you're feeding off of that, can be a rough experience. And nobody really talks about that, but that's the part I think that I felt the most, and probably what contributes to a lot of the really bad stuff that happens to some of these people, because it's a quick drop, if you will, from like somebody to nobody. And at the end of the day, it's okay being nobody. It's actually quite fun, and you can enjoy your life, right? But does that make sense?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
John used to be in a band that had a top 5 hit in this country and got a £1 million deal with EMI Records.
No way.
I was a pop star for about a week in 1999.
Okay, but
we did go down the pan very quickly, so I do understand what you're saying.
What was the band called? I'll check it out.
Well, we were a band called the Cuban Boys, and we sampled. Do you remember the old Hamster Dance website from yesteryear? There was a gimmicky website.
You might know it from Robin Hood more, the whistle stop.
It was called the Hamster Dance. It was a gimmicky website, and we nicked the music from that. We made a novelty record out of it. We called the Cuban Boys. It was a song called Cognoscenti versus Intelligentsia. It was a pretentious name. But the point was, we had a one-hit wonder Christmas novelty hit with it, and then we went downhill very quickly after that. So I've had my taste of fame was very accelerated. I went up, I went down. It all happened in about 6 months.
But even if you got a taste of it, that's enough to be like, wow, this is pretty intoxicating. This is pretty amazing. Yeah. And then, so if you had a taste of it, that's all you need to be like, wow, I could see how losing this, because I had it for quite a few years, losing this can be interesting. And by the way, I did play in a band. I played in a band for quite a few years in LA called Float. We played at the Whiskey, the Roxy, and all those like Sunset Strip band spots. So I've done a lot. I've had a pretty fun life doing like a lot of it. Like I'm one of those guys who just kind of goes after whatever I want to do.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, music is a passion of mine. I've got my guitar hiding back there. That's still a passion of mine too, singing and playing music and stuff. But yeah, I'll look up that band. I'd love to hear the song. That's cool.
If you like good music, you won't like it. It was a novelty record at best. But
you might say the same about my stuff too. So
hey, you know what? It's all right for you two. I once was published in the Keighley News, which is the local newspaper here. So look impressed.
Yeah,
I'm a big shot as well.
Big time, Billy.
I am. Thank you for noticing. I'm gonna.
Wow, that's mind blowing.
Wow. It's been lovely talking to you, and it feels like we sort of ended on a nice sort of a little bit of poignancy, if you will.
Sure.
Which is why, shame, I'm going to spoil it with the final question.
Oh, here we go.
I think John
was going so well.
I think John's probably tipped you off here in the email that we sent as we ask a question to all of our guests. I'm going to let John do the honours because it's a weird thing that naturally came out of some early episodes.
Well, the question we have to ask everybody, but now we can ask you, who has been in the presence of Mr. Gordon Shumway himself, what does Alf smell like? And that's Alf the real creature, not Alf the puppet.
You know the smell of like dew on a flower petal on like a warm summer morning?
Yeah.
Smells nothing like that.
Nothing like that.
Nothing like that at all. I'll be honest, guys. I don't. If you were to ask me what Alf smells like, it would be sweat. I think it was a hot set. I remember Paul was hot all the time and sweating all the time because his job was the hardest. And so maybe if there was any smell, it would be the smell of perspiration. I don't. I mean, I almost want to lie to you because no one could prove me wrong or right here. So if there's something that you guys want it to be, I still have some acting chops. So I could probably sell it if you want to tell me.
No, but if you wake up in the middle of the night at some point, you sit bolt upright and remember suddenly what Alf smelt like. You go, that was it. Do let us know. Do let us know.
No problem. I will give it a shot.
Thank you.
And I will keep it in the back of my mind. But I don't.
Call
honestly,
us anytime. Anytime, day or night.
All right, cool. What an odd question.
Most people say wet dog.
Wet dog, huh?
Yeah.
And who are those people? Are those people that actually were on set next to him?
Some have, yeah.
Well, it's mainly just general commentators and friends that we see.
Okay.
But we did ask Al and Mike. Alf enthusiast. Yes, we did ask Al, Gene, and Mike Reese. And
did you ever get to talk to like Lisa Buckley or any other folks?
Not yet. No.
We're trying to.
Okay.
I think
the credibility comes from like honestly when you emailed me and said you talked to Paul and you talked to Al, I was like, all right, these guys kind of broke. Like it just felt more comfortable. I didn't have to do much research. I was like, if those guys were talking to him, I'm happy to do. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that might open probably everybody you talk to opens up the door to the next guy. I would think, or gal.
That's what we're hoping. It's nice to get it from this perspective as well, because obviously we've spoken to people who were writers and creators, but it's nice to have your side as well. So thank you so much for joining us. This has been absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, nice
we
to meet you guys. I enjoyed
it.
I enjoyed it.
Is there anything you'd like to plug before we go? Because it's only fair.
And again, that's the nice thing about I have nothing to plug. I have nothing to sell. Thank you for the opportunity, but no, I just I'm all good.
He'd like to plug ALFsplaining on all podcast.
Right, that.
Yeah, that's it. Tell your friends. Tell your friends.
I will. No, it's a cool. Honestly, it's a cool. I listened to a couple episodes. It's terrific. So I wish you guys luck, and I hope I think everyone should check it out.
Thanks, Josh.
Cool. Thanks, guys.